Hi there, friend. I'm genuinely thankful you're here watching this. If you choose to subscribe to the channel, that would mean a lot to me. Now, let's dive into the story. Ethan Caldwell had constructed a life rooted in reliability. At 38, he held a steady position as a systems analyst in a peaceful suburb of Illinois. Never one for the spotlight. He didn't raise his voice, didn't seek applause. What he valued was stability, hard work over flash, commitment above charisma. His life ran like clockwork, morning jogs through hushed streets, black coffee sipped from a battered Chicago Bears mug, and a precisely planned schedule that some admired, even if they quietly labeled it obsessive. His wife, Brooke Langston, was his opposite in nearly every way. Vibrant, bold, impossible to overlook. She burst into his life like a summer storm. They met years ago when she was brought in to consult on a major software overhaul at his company. From their first interaction, she was pure fire, confident, determined, relentless. Her presence was like a spotlight, and Ethan, grounded and composed, found himself quietly captivated. For her part, Brooke found comfort in Ethan's steadiness. "I don't need fireworks," she once said softly, fingertips tracing the fabric of his collar. "I need someone who stays when things get dark." For 6 years, they built a partnership. He supported her as she launched her own marketing firm from scratch, and she stood beside him during his slow climb to a well-earned promotion. Their love wasn't a grand spectacle, but it was real, rooted, honest. And for Ethan, that had always been more than enough. But as Brooke's business flourished, subtle changes crept in. At first, it was barely noticeable. Unanswered messages, forgotten calls. She chalked it up to stress, to the demands of success. But her tone changed when she mentioned her newest client, a sleek, self-assured executive named Cole Westbrook from a luxury lifestyle brand. "You'd probably get along with him," she mentioned one evening, eyes focused on the distance. "He's like you, calm, collected. But there's a bit of an edge." Ethan smiled politely, brushing aside the discomfort her words sparked. He reminded himself not to jump to conclusions. Yet the shifts continued, late-night meetings, last-minute travel, a new laugh that rang sharper, freer. It wasn't just louder, it was unfamiliar. Then came the guarded behavior. Her phone never left her side, always locked, always face down. New passwords, sudden screen changes whenever he walked into the room. One Wednesday night, she came home in a scarlet silk blouse he didn't recognize. The scent that clung to her, unmistakably a man's cologne, was the same one she had once dismissed when he tried it. Now, it lingered on her like a confession. Still, Ethan said nothing. He didn't accuse her. He observed, quietly, like always. Because Ethan understood something fundamental about betrayal. It feeds on confrontation. Show you're hurt, and you give away your power. So instead of confrontation, he offered her calm. While Brooke assumed he was withdrawing, he was carefully laying the groundwork. What she hadn't realized was that he had already brought in a private investigator. She was too distracted to catch on. Weekends in Miami labeled as business trips, rooftop dinners framed as networking, a gallery of selfies meant for someone else. Ethan, whose meticulous nature had served him well in his career, applied that same precision to documenting the truth about the woman he once trusted completely. The investigator, Jared McCollin, a former detective known for his discretion, didn't take long to confirm what Ethan had feared. Brooke hadn't just crossed a line, she had abandoned the map. The photos were time-stamped and irrefutable. Brooke in Cole's convertible, her hand resting on his chest, her laughter free and careless, not the polished persona she wore in professional settings. This wasn't business. This was deeply personal. But it wasn't the physical betrayal that cut deepest. It was the act she performed afterward, the practiced sweetness when she came home, the way she clung to him like nothing had changed. "You're so good to me," she whispered into his neck one night. And in that moment, he realized she wasn't just lying. She was relying on his silence to keep lying. So Ethan did the one thing she never expected. He let her go. No more midday texts. No more waiting up with a reheated dinner. He stopped covering for her absence, stopped doing the quiet chores she'd grown used to, folding her laundry, restocking her favorite snacks, reminding her of client meetings. She noticed. One evening, sipping wine with an aloof calm, she asked, "Everything okay?" "Just tired," Ethan said evenly. "Work's been demanding." She nodded and returned to scrolling through her phone. Meanwhile, Ethan was executing a quiet dismantling, not of her business, but of the illusion she had created. He began pulling at every thread she hadn't thought to secure, emotionally, financially, professionally. What Brooke never understood, or had chosen to forget, was that her office lease was in Ethan's name, that he had co-signed the business loan when lenders turned her away, that the luxury SUV in the driveway was part of his company's corporate lease program. Ethan moved deliberately. He canceled the lease payments, invoking a clause buried in the contract she'd never read. He reclaimed the SUV under company policy. He froze the joint account she still used to support her curated image. The silence between them grew thicker. Then came Saturday morning. Brooke charged into the kitchen, phone in hand, voice raised. "Did you cancel the office payment?" Ethan glanced up, serene. "Didn't realize it was still under my name." "Don't act clueless, Ethan. I just got a notice. They're evicting me." He set his mug down gently. "That's unfortunate. Are you trying to destroy everything I've built?" "I'm correcting a misstep," he replied coolly. "We're both independent now, right?" She froze, stunned, furious, but still not fully grasping what was unfolding. In her mind, Ethan was still the dependable husband, the one who'd never push back. But Ethan's quiet wasn't weakness, it was intention. And while she scrambled, he simply watched, calm as the tide turned against her. The unraveling was swift. By Monday, her prized downtown office was locked, her code deactivated, her name removed. A note from building management waited on the door, lease terminated due to missed payments. She had 24 hours to vacate. Frantic, she tried to call Ethan. No answer. She texted, "We need to talk." Nothing. What she didn't yet understand was that Ethan had already moved on, and he was already several moves ahead. He orchestrated every detail with chilling exactness. He'd studied her schedule, knew Thursday's quarterly client pitch was her moment to shine. The lease expiration, timed to perfection, just as she'd be showing off her prized office. This wasn't a stumble, it was engineered disgrace. For Brooke, perception was the foundation of everything. Her persona, her brand, her empire, built entirely on how she appeared. Ethan wasn't merely undermining her, he was dismantling the entire stage beneath her feet. Still, Brooke clung to composure. That night, she met Cole at a high-end bistro, searching for comfort, or at least something to numb the impact. But Cole didn't offer softness. He was all sharp edges and unflinching pragmatism. "You should have had someone review the lease," he said coolly, lazily spinning the glass in his hand. She leaned closer, her voice taut. "I thought Ethan had it handled." His brow arched. "Then maybe Ethan wasn't the fool you took him for." She stiffened. It was the first time anyone had spoken aloud what had haunted her silently. That the man she'd discounted may have been unmaking her, bit by bit, with quiet intent. She returned home unsteady, consumed by the need to take back control. She rifled through documents, combed through messages, and then she saw it. The joint account hadn't been siphoned. It had been legally, methodically drained. Long ago. The money she believed was hers had already been claimed, with precision, without a trace of wrongdoing. Her phone lit up. A message from Ethan. Just 3 words. "Check the envelope." She rushed to the hallway console. There it was, thick, sealed, addressed in his unmistakable handwriting. Inside, divorce papers, signed, processed, final. A letter from his lawyer enclosed, citing reconcilable betrayal. But that wasn't the most brutal blow. Also inside, a meticulous inventory of shared assets, and Ethan's legal stake in each one. The loft, his. The luxury SUV, gone. The original capital for the business, fully documented under his name. Brooke was left with little more than her identity, and even that now felt hollow. Ethan didn't stage a dramatic departure, no scenes, no words left hanging in the air, just a quiet rideshare, one suitcase, and a softly closed door. Because true control doesn't need applause. It exits quietly. Brooke stood motionless in the doorway, watching taillights dissolve into the night. The tears didn't arrive, at least not yet. Not until Monday, when her top-tier client, the one Ethan had introduced, formally severed ties. Leadership concerns, they cited. By Thursday, another contract dissolved. Then Cole disappeared. No message, no explanation. He ignored every call and text. Whatever allure she once exuded, mystery, charm, boldness, had vanished. What remained was wreckage. For the first time in years, Brooke Langston was unequivocally, painfully alone. But Ethan wasn't done. Silence was just his opening act. The real satisfaction came from watching her try to reassemble her image, only to find that the mirror was already broken. 2 weeks after he left, Brooke stood barefoot in their old kitchen. The house wasn't colder from weather, it was empty. The quiet luxuries she'd never paid attention to were gone, the dim lighting at twilight, the scent of coffee brewing before dawn, the laundry always folded just right. These weren't coincidences. They'd been part of a rhythm she assumed required no conductor. Now the music had stopped. Everything was off-beat. She tried to reach him again. No answer. She texted, "Can we talk? I just want to understand." Silence, but not the kind that lingers with indecision. This was the silence of someone who had already let go. Her agency began to unravel faster than she could contain it. Industry whispers turned into open speculation. Details were irrelevant. Perception alone was enough. The team she had built, young, sharp, loyal, started to leave. Some out of uncertainty, others drawn to Ethan, who had mentored them in quieter ways. Ethan? He'd vanished, mostly. Word spread. He was consulting with a startup, taking time off, partnering with a boutique agency founded by one of Brooke's ex-interns. At first, she dismissed it as coincidence. Then she recognized the design. Ethan wasn't just recovering, he was building deliberately, with care, as if crafting the antithesis of all she had lost. And that's when fear set in, not over losing him, but over realizing she'd never actually known who he was. The man she had labeled boring, unimaginative, too procedural for her world, had dismantled hers with surgical precision, and now he was rebuilding, sharper, focused, entirely without regret. She made one final effort. Dressed in her trademark elegance, she walked into his new co-working space, banking on old power to open the door. His assistant greeted her politely. "He's in a meeting." Brooke straightened her posture. "I'll wait." "I'm afraid you can't," the assistant said gently. "He doesn't take walk-ins." Brooke's voice trembled. "I'm not just a meeting. I'm his wife." The assistant didn't flinch. "No, ma'am, you're not." The words hit harder than she expected. She left before tears could betray her composure, before the door could close with irreversible finality. That night, she sent him one last message. No embellishment, no bravado, just honesty. "You were right. I walked away first. I thought I'd never face consequences for that. But I have. You didn't just leave me. You erased the version of me that might have been enough. I see it now. I wish I had seen it then. He never responded, not out of malice. It was his way of honoring the ending. When someone sets fire to the bridge, you don't return to pull them out of the smoke. You build something better, on the far side. And Ethan had done exactly that, brick by brick, constructing a new skyline from the ruins she left behind. A year passed. Brooke faded from the public eye. No more red carpets, no speaking panels. Her agency's website now led to a vacant domain for sale page. Her meticulously curated social media, deleted. Rumors buzzed, whispers of a comeback. But Brooke remained silent, because she had nothing left to offer. Ethan Caldwell didn't merely move on, he evolved. The hunger for retribution had finally burned out, buried with the past. What remained in its place was a quiet pursuit of freedom, long overdue and well-deserved. His new company, a sharp and nimble data firm called North Axiom, was gaining momentum quickly. Built on transparency, trust, and airtight contracts, it thrived without noise or spectacle. Before long, North Axiom began attracting the very clients who once filled Brooke's calendar. But the real surprise? Ethan never spoke her name. He didn't need to. Her actions had already told the story, no embellishment necessary. In a world ruled by appearances, her silent disappearance echoed louder than any protest ever could. Then came the letter. Not a text, not a missed call. A letter, on paper, sealed in an envelope, her handwriting unmistakable. It arrived on a dull Thursday, wedged between project outlines and billing statements. The moment he recognized her script, Ethan's breath caught. He considered tossing it without reading. But curiosity, persistent as ever, won out. Inside was a single torn sheet, ink slightly smudged, the handwriting rushed and uneven. I never understood what you meant when you said that silence isn't the same as surrender. I thought you were walking away, too tired to fight. But I see now. You weren't quitting. You were stepping back, letting me fall apart on my own terms. And I did. You didn't destroy me, Ethan. You let me do that myself. If you hate me now, I won't argue. If I'm nothing to you anymore, I accept it. But if even a sliver of the man I once knew is still in there, I hope he hears this. I'm sorry. For all of it. Brooke. He read the letter once, then again, slowly. Then folded it neatly and placed it in the lowest drawer of his desk, next to a wedding ring he hadn't worn in years, and a photograph from a long-forgotten hiking trip, taken when their love was still effortless. In that picture they were beaming, unguarded, laughing. It was from a time before ambition pulled them apart, before secrets crept in like fog. He shut the drawer softly, the way one closes a chapter for good. Later that evening, Ethan wandered along the woodland paths behind his new home. The stillness suited him. He paused by a bench overlooking a quiet lake, where a young woman sat struggling to untangle her dog's leash. She giggled at her own fumbling fingers, genuine, a little shy. Ethan walked over and helped without thinking. There was no intent behind it, not romance, not yet. Just something real, something uncomplicated, something now, and that was enough. He didn't need Brooke to hurt anymore. He wasn't seeking courtroom drama or heartfelt apologies, because the deepest form of retribution isn't rage, it's serenity. It's creating a life so rich in meaning, so grounded in peace, so quietly abundant, that the one who once tried to erase you finds themselves haunted not by your fury, but by your absence. And in this calm, enduring life Ethan had shaped for himself, Brooke was no longer the antagonist. She was simply a moment, a lesson. The fire that forged the steel. Strangely, he was grateful, because not every betrayal deserves to be burned down. Some deserve to be outlived by a life so steady, so luminous, so enduring, that no secret, no betrayal, no broken promise can ever shatter it again. And so, this story ends. Leave a thought if you'd like. Thanks for walking this path with us. If this one moved you, there are more stories waiting on the channel. Until next time, be well.